Yeah, you can see on the camera, gets through the right well. Oh, that's so frustrating.
Everything at Maranello seemed perfect. The start of Ferrari's new era. Hamilton's arrival and whispers of redemption in red. But beneath that glossy surface, an engineer's revelation would ignite the wildest storm Ferrari has faced in years. Disclaimer: some details are based on internal reports and credible paddock rumors.
In the corner as the load had built, gets out wide, corrects, and then just ran out of road.
Are you okay?
Yeah, so sorry, guys.
The Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort was supposed to be Ferrari's redemption arc. The paddock buzzed with excitement. The sight of Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari red was enough to make cameras flash like lightning. This was the weekend the prancing horse would silence the doubters. Inside the garage, there was belief. Hamilton and his trusted engineer, Riccardo Adami, were in perfect sync. Two minds fine-tuning one machine. They adjusted the SF25's rear ride height, worked the differential preload, and refined braking stability until Hamilton's feedback turned from frustration to quiet satisfaction. For a moment, it felt like the old magic was back. But in Formula One, moments of peace are only ever calm before the storm. Because while Hamilton was smiling in the garage, somewhere deep inside Maranello's network of control rooms, someone was about to rewrite his destiny. Saturday morning, Hamilton stepped into his SF25 expecting the same rhythm he'd built the night before. But the car didn't recognize him anymore. The smooth precision he'd spent hours mastering was gone. The rear was twitchy. Corners felt like traps. Every lap was a fight to keep the car from spinning. Commentators whispered, "setup problem." Fans called it bad luck. But inside the team, Adami's face said something else. He knew those settings weren't theirs. The numbers didn't match. The ride height, the preload, and everything had been changed overnight without his approval or Hamilton's signature. That's sabotage in a fireproof suit. Adami's statement hit the paddock like a thunderclap. For a team as secretive as Ferrari, this was the equivalent of lighting a match in a fuel shed. And suddenly, the weekend that promised glory turned into a mechanical nightmare. The deeper the engineers looked, the stranger it got. Nothing about Hamilton's car made sense. Data logs showed modifications were made during closed hours. The fingerprints on the digital trail didn't lead to the race garage. They led back to Maranello. There, behind Ferrari's glossy red walls, lives a quiet monster. The Central Performance Group, or CPG. A name few fans know, but every Ferrari insider fears. It's a team of analysts, coders, and performance engineers who operate like a brain plugged into the mainframe. They have access to every car's telemetry, every simulation, every adjustment. In theory, they exist to help the team. In practice, they sometimes act like they are the team. That's the heart of the scandal. The CPG allegedly overrode Hamilton's setup, replacing human instinct with algorithmic arrogance. They believed their AI simulations knew better than the 7-time world champion sitting in the cockpit. Imagine telling Picasso how to hold a brush. That's what happened in Ferrari Red. This was a philosophical war. On one side stood Hamilton and Adami, veterans of the track who trust the feel of tires, the sound of the engine, and the rhythm of a corner. On the other side stood the CPG, a group that worshipped data sheets, probability graphs, and simulation outputs. They believed the computer's verdict was final. Adami disagreed. He argued that Zandvoort's variable grip and high-speed corners couldn't be tamed by a spreadsheet. But the CPG didn't care for opinions. They had proof. And in Ferrari's corporate ladder, numbers beat intuition every time. The result? A car that fought its driver. The human touch was buried under gigabytes of code. It wasn't Hamilton behind the wheel that day. It was an algorithm pretending to know him better than he knew himself. And when the rear snapped mid-corner, the only thing more painful than losing grip was realizing who took it away. Riccardo Adami could have stayed silent. Ferrari pays its people well for loyalty, not honesty. But he refused to bury the truth. When asked by the press about the strange changes, he didn't dodge. He confirmed the nightmare. Yes, the setup had been altered outside normal procedure. His tone wasn't dramatic, but his words detonated across the Formula One world. This wasn't a random mechanics blunder. This was an unauthorized decision that bypassed the very chain of command that keeps a team alive. The Ferrari hierarchy, normally as polished as its cars, suddenly looked fragile. For a moment, Maranello turned into a circus. Paddock reporters circled like vultures. Rival teams whispered sabotage. And fans joked online that Ferrari could mess up a coffee order even with an espresso machine full of engineers. Beneath the laughter, though, was fear. Because if Ferrari could lose control of its own systems, what else could slip through the cracks? Then came the final nail in the coffin. Leclerc's car was untouched. Perfect setup, unchanged overnight. No suspicious data edits, no errors in communication. While Hamilton wrestled with a monster, Leclerc's SF25 danced through corners like it had a secret. The comparison was too obvious to ignore. Fans saw it, pundits saw it. Even Hamilton's body language said it all. Disappointment cloaked in silence. Was Ferrari secretly favoring Leclerc? Or was this another classic case of internal politics masquerading as engineering? To Ferrari's credit, there's no hard proof of favoritism, just timing, secrecy, and a suspicious pattern. But in Formula One, perception is poison. Once doubt creeps in, it spreads faster than tire smoke. And when your own garage feels divided, you don't need rivals to beat you. You'll do it yourself. When the storm became impossible to ignore, team principal Fred Vasseur finally faced the cameras. He looked calm, too calm for a man whose garage had just been accused of sabotaging Lewis Hamilton. There was no premeditated attempt to bring down Lewis, he said. If changes occurred without communication, that is an internal issue we must fix. It was the kind of statement that says everything and nothing at once. He promised an internal investigation, but fans knew the Ferrari playbook by heart. Deny, delay, deflect, and hope the next race buries the headline. Behind the scenes, though, the damage was done. Mechanics were demoralized. Engineers felt ignored. Hamilton's trust was hanging by a thread. And somewhere inside Ferrari, one brave voice, Adami's, had cracked open a truth the team wished had stayed buried. The repercussions were immediate. Media outlets jumped on the story. Analysts questioned whether Hamilton would even finish his contract if the culture didn't change. Martin Brundle's warning echoed across Sky Sports. If Ferrari doesn't fix this soon, I'm not sure Hamilton will want to see out his contract. A champion can't work with a team that doesn't trust him. That line hit harder than a front wing on a sausage curve. Because it wasn't gossip, it was a prophecy. Every champion needs faith in their team, and Hamilton had just seen that faith turn to dust. Inside Ferrari, whispers grew louder of politics, favoritism, and a war between data and drivers. Fans online took their usual swings. Some joked Ferrari's AI might soon ask for a race seat. Others said Hamilton should install antivirus software before entering the garage. But behind the memes was a serious truth. Ferrari's biggest enemy might not be Red Bull or Mercedes. It might be itself. Ferrari's name has always stood for more than speed. It stands for emotion, the red, the roar, the legacy of champions. But now it's fighting a different kind of battle, one that no engine upgrade can fix. Inside Maranello, morale has split. Half the team defends the CPG, claiming innovation is painful but necessary. The other half sides with Hamilton and Adami, insisting that data should serve the driver, not control him. The once united Scuderia now feels like two teams wearing the same shirt. If Ferrari doesn't heal this wound soon, it risks losing more than races. It risks losing the one thing even money can't buy: trust. And without trust, even the fastest car in the world becomes nothing more than expensive scrap painted red. Ferrari's greatest fight isn't on the track, it's within. So tell me, can chaos ever coexist with championship glory?